The Punch, The Sporting Life, and you have one other one there.
Leadership and Daily Trust.
All right, so we'll be looking at the big stories on this National Days. We'll kickstart with the Nation's newspaper. Big story there says expose Oyibo's hidden agenda on tenure extension. And you find details of this big story on page 6 of the Nation's newspaper. We've got reconstructed Burma 90% safe, says the government. Page 4 is where you find that big story. Headsmen kill soldier farmer in Benue State. Flip to page 42 and get that big story there. Protest as Buhari arrives in London. Presidency says the looters behind the protest. And we've got
London. You should know. You should just Facebook who wants to go and send people to protest on his arrival to London. Even the Nigerians who are not excited, who are not happy, Nigerians who are in other countries that are not. In fact, he should not be surprised that even if he goes to any country where you find Nigerians, they will still protest because whatever hits their fellow brothers in Nigeria also hits them over there. It's just a normal thing to understand.
All right, looking at Oyego's hidden agenda on tenure extension, and the party says there's no such plot. Do you think this is going to tear APC apart, this tenure extension drama?
My thought is when I saw that caption, expose, and I'm wondering who is exposing who? Or is it exposing, or is it some parts of the APC that are exposing and saying he has a hidden agenda? You chose him in the first place, and now he wants to stay longer than necessary, and now there's a problem. And I really don't think that whatever hidden agenda it is just right, because right now I'm forced to think that there are even like 3 factions in the APC: those who are for Oyegun, those who are not for Oyegun, and those who are indecisive right now. Whatever, like they say, wherever Bele face, there's a fact that is wherever Bele face, they don't belong to anybody, just there in the party. So I think that it will. Now I've already seen hidden agenda matters coming up. I think the problem is not going down anytime soon.
All right, looking at the reconstructed Burma 90% safe, says the government, do you think that's going to be encouraging for IDPs and to go back to Burma?
I think the IDPs will not even want to go back because they will feel it's not safe because we're still.
But the federal government says 90% safe.
There are so many things the federal government has said that still.
There's a question mark.
There's still question mark. So why should we then? Nigerians have got to a point where if you tell us, if the federal government tells us good morning, we have to check the time if it's good morning. It is real morning.
Yeah, talking about sincerity on the part of the federal government and its citizenry. All right, the last story I want us to take a look at is the fact that polio, the state government says polio must be eliminated, and the big question is Nigeria was supposed to have done that just with polio. So do you think the health sector, it's truly time for them to call state of emergency?
Using that word, sorry, we talk about state of emergency in the health sector. I think that the health sector need to step up their game. They need to really do a lot. Yes, they might want to bring the issue of no proper funding, no equipment, medical facilities, and the rest of them. But I think that even without that, they should be able to show some level of concern. I think last weekend I saw some people going around giving a polio vaccination to children. That's within in Abuja here. So I think that the health going to do more. They need to do more.
All right.
Let's go to the Punch for this morning. The big story here is on page 11, and it says, "Go home and defend yourselves with stones Autumn tells IDPs."
I think Autumn is always very dramatic. The other time, we remember he gave wheelbarrows to people saying he was trying to empower them. Now he's saying, go defend yourself with sticks and stones against people carrying AK-47.
Guns and machetes and the rest of them. He might have reasons for saying that. Now, drivers protest as 4 die in a road crash. That is on page 4. You will find that story. APC to hold convention before May 16. Convention panel members to be named by weekend. That is on page 2. Preferred bidder theology makes a $50 million down payment for. Okay, Abacha loot. Federal government confirms receipt of $322.5 million
I
from
think
Switzerland.
it's coming at a very suspicious time. The confirmation by the federal government and the time the money is coming, it gives this very creepy feeling that this is stage managed. We know elections is coming very close. This money is, how can we guarantee that this money is not going to be used for election purposes? And so it just tells you that there's a lot of cleaning up to be done.
Well, you mentioned election purpose and state managed. I think that the drama, you were aware at first when they said they did not receive any money. They're not aware of any money that was sent, even when the bank has said, we have transferred this money, and the government, and now federal government, after Buhari has declared, federal government is now saying, we confirmed the receipt of the money. Now, this to me, I see it in two ways. I see it first as the federal government shooting themselves on the leg, in a way that now we are aware that you have gotten this money. So we are waiting for you to use this money judiciously to what we can see. So if you use this money to do what is not for the people's interest or visible, now we would, as usual, even though we cannot do much, but as usual, we will definitely talk, we will definitely ask questions, we will definitely complain. And so this is the part where they shot themselves on the leg. Now the second part is, they would have just decided to keep quiet and not talk, even they've seen it, and as usual, the matter will die. We are in Nigeria, this is Nigeria, the matter will die, and it's a matter of time. Nigerians will get to ask about their Abacha loot. Perhaps when we get to ask about their Abacha loot, it might be maybe months or maybe 2020, and that will now remember, oh, Abacha loot, or something like that. By then, they will have even used the money for election. So, in a way, I see it coming from two sides. Either they're shooting themselves on the leg, or they have a strategic plan somewhere. But whichever, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and we are waiting to see.
All right, the story from Edo State about
the drivers are protesting for died in a Edo Road crash.
I think the federal city courts, they've been awesome in the past, but recently it looks like they've completely drifted their focus towards generating income for the federal government. So they're more interested in getting your license and all those issues, and do not care about the safety on the roads anymore. And I think it's very worrisome because the essence of having them is to reduce road accidents and death on the road. But now I think they're more interested in generating income for the federal government, and it's worrisome.
It's worrisome. Now we hear there from page 4 and 5 on the Punch this morning that OAU lecturers want sex format allegation against Professor Pro. I think it's a good one.
I think it's long overdue, and we all know that these things happen in schools. I was a victim of one of them, so I can confirm it does really happen.
A woman or
that's going to be next time. Let's go to the next big story.
Well, before we go to the next, we're still on the sex allegation. I think that it needs to be addressed very seriously, because I saw the other day on the news where there's a particular lecturer. I can't really place the university right now. You have to sit with you. He has to sit with you 5 times before he gives you the mark.
Okay.
So if I can pay your dues 5 times before he gives you that particular mark. So if he's meant to give you a B, you sit with him 5 times, when you complete the 5th time, you now have a mark. So I think that it is really bad, I must say. Now, police arrest detain 5 stars operatives.
That's very unusual.
Unusual, I must say. Well, if you want to really read this unusual story, go to page 5 of the Punch this beautiful morning.
All right, let's switch quickly to Daily Sun. The big story here says, defend yourself, autumn tells a theme Benue indigents at page 42. We get a big story. Federal government admits receiving $322 million of water loot in December. President's aide comment on controversies, very big controversy. Go to page 2 and 10 of the Daily Sun. You find out why the federal government received the money in December, and we're hearing it just April, right?
April.
And so you want to find out why this. So we've got the government APC playing politics with security, says Governor Wike, and page 40 is the President's declaration. Page 6 is where you get a big story. Python dance, Igbo killers must be exposed. And this speech stories on page 4. And the big one, my question to you is, can we now confirm that there was something sinister about this challenge received in December, proclaimed in April?
No, you are missing the other link. Denied in March,
Okay.
accepted in April.
So,
the
the soap opera continues.
I don't know if maybe tomorrow they will tell us that a fowl ate it in maybe August. We never can tell.
All right, let's go to the Python dance on page 39. Ohanese is spitting fire, saying killers of Igbo killers must be exposed. Do you see that happening anytime soon?
It has to do with the Igbos, right? And that is why I am very, very. What I have to quantify this?
Seconds.
I am not feeling anything is going to happen. I just feel it's just going to be there.
All right, I'll find details of all these big stories on the Daily Sun. Let's move over.
Let's go to the leadership this point. I just saw something very interesting because I was there when it was said yesterday, when Minister Amechi actually said that the minister earns 960,000 monthly. He said that yesterday at an event, and in his breakdown, he said that 300,000 is what is given to ministers for their accommodation.
300,000.
Yes, their accommodation, and the rest. And he said, do the calculation. The rest is for your domestic staff, for your running around, and the rest of them. And even though we don't believe it, but
Do they stay in houses worth 300,000?
I think I would take you to one of those houses I saw, and then we check with father if it's 300,000. Then we all can go and live there. So, but you find that story, you get more of that story, Amechi's story. Go to page 4 of the leadership. You will find that story there. Now, federal government confirms recovery of $322.5 million Abacha loot from Switzerland. That is also on page. Yes, continued on page 6 of the leadership newspaper this morning. IPOB backs PMB's re-election as Arewa Youth Kids. That is something else. And then the writer here said his second term, Igbo's shortest route to presidency. This is coming from the SJF. How true do you think that is?
Well, it's politics. Anything is possible. It's looking very far from being realistic.
Why do I just feel that these people are not learning the lessons? They're not reading in between the lines, not looking at the details. They are leaving the making and facing a mirage. Why do I just think so?
Well, everybody has the right to dream big and believe you could achieve anything, but politics, like I say, no permanent friend, but permanent interest.
All right, on page 36 of the leadership, Nigeria records 250,000 barrels of oil spill in 9 years. And the PMB makes 23 new appointments. That is on page 7 of the leadership this beautiful morning. And then on the back page story of the leadership, we want to see something interesting. The lecturers' ethics, grades, and sexual harassment. You definitely want to read something on that.
All right, let's take you to the sports world, and we've got the sporting life right here. The big story here says Reds and Citizens votes in Champions League. Is Manchester City 1, Liverpool 2. We've got Alaba Vida ruled out for Sevilla's return. Sevilla's Castro remains upbeat, talking about the Champions League game today between Bayern Munich and Sevilla. It's 7:45 p.m. that we're in action against. And we've got Dybala linked with a £90 million move to Liverpool. Musa refuses to shake hands with CSKA Moscow coach. We've got Ayama too rusty. That big story is on page 5. And Ikeme's treatment ends in June. Talking about Super Eagles goalkeeper Carl Ikeme, who is suffering from cancer. His treatment ends in June. That's a good news. And we've got Roma back out of Champions League. Last night was truly awesome. We had a Roma play out a 3-3 draw with Sabaka, meaning that it's 4-4 aggregate. Away goes led Roma into the next stage. Those are the big stories making the round on the sporting arena. Go get the sporting life and get all the big stories inside.
All right, the final paper this morning, it is the Daily Trust. The big story here, there is a convention. APC notifies INEC to release timetable. And Buhari nominates Okoye, 25 others for INEC NPC jobs. That is on page 3. FIRS, EFCC partner to track defaulters as Vase ends. This is on page 5 of the Daily Trust. Now, I am seeing a picture story here, and it's really, really pathetic. Class in session at the local education authorities, Shaway Primary School in Brigasa, Kaduna State. This kids practically have no seats. There is no seats on the floor. And I don't know if to call this a blackboard, a chalkboard, or a wallboard. I don't know what name to call it.
Either way, it just shows that facilities needed for schools right here in Nigeria, especially Kaduna State. We had a lot of issues in the education sector concerning Kaduna. First of all, the teachers who failed a primary 4 test, and now we're looking at infrastructure not being there.
And then we have on the UK trip why Buhari didn't write National Assembly. You'll find that on page 8. And Shima's trial stalled as witness fails to provide key documents. That is on page 4. What do you think will come of this trial?
Well, we know all the details. We have, first of all, the judiciary not very certain completely. Then we've got the witness not providing the needed evidence. So the big question is someone trying to stall the process by ensuring that witness does not get hold of the evidence? But it also tells you that the judiciary, or those who are prosecuting Shima, have not done their homework properly, because these details and evidence is supposed to be long gone or with them before they go to this stage. So we just hope that the X factor is not going to play out.
Well, people in the legal world would definitely understand better that once the key documents and information needed for a particular trial is not available, witness, paperwork, and the rest of them is not available, then wonder what you're going to do.
Yeah,
because you need to back your words with some papers.
I remember the MBS survey that came out ranking the judiciary and the Nigerian police as the top most corrupt agencies in Nigeria. Then you begin to understand why these things play out. All right, we'll be going on a quick break. Now we've seen all the big stories making the rounds right here in Nigeria. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be having a policy analyst in the person of Emmanuel Ozoemena in the studio to help us look at the recent terrorism prohibition and prevention bill, which was announced by the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, recently. And so we'll be looking at it to see how it's going to favor Nigeria as we fight terrorism.
Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. An all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. Comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence.
Nigerians have tested political parties, religion, and age. It is time to get a bridge builder to heal the wounds. Hassan Dan Kwambo. Under your watch as Executive Governor of Gombe State, you have been able to manage the state's resources in view of the numerous projects so far completed and the low statutory federal allocations accruable to the state. With your landmark achievements in healthcare, youth employment, women empowerment, road infrastructure, pipe-borne water, security, education, and agricultural development, we are sure of a better Nigeria. 2019 is not about power or change, but rather it is about Dan Kwambo to replicate his humility and servant leadership. Dan Kwambo, Nigeria. Nigeria, Dan Kwambo.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents want control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria.
Information remains the bedrock in every stage of development. It develops both the human mind and the society at large. Television Nigerian is here to avail you with that information you need for all-round development through its mind-blowing programs such as news, talk shows, health and safety, governance and politics, sport, entertainment, kids, documentaries, finance, global happenings, human disposition from childhood to adulthood. It's a manifestation of what you see, what you hear, and say. Tune in and stay tuned to TVN, Television Nigeria, broadcast beyond boundaries.
Alright, if you're just joining us, you've missed quite a lot. Given the big stories and making the rounds on the foreign scene and right here in Nigeria. It's now time for us to hit the discuss segment where we look at very, very salient issues of national and world interest. We're looking at reviewing the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill, which was recently announced by the Attorney General of the Federation, talking about Abubakar Malami, stating that this new bill is meant to fight terrorism to a standstill and also those financing terrorism. We have in the studio Emmanuel Ozomena, who is a policy analyst, to help us look into this new bill. Good morning. Nice to have you join us.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, we had the Director of Public Prosecution, in the person of Mohammed Esu, announce this new bill talking about terrorism prohibition and prevention bill. For you, do you think it fits the bill? It's going to help us truly fight terrorism?
Yeah, I think if you take a look at issues of terror in Nigeria since 2009, when the Boko Haram insurgency commenced in the northeast of Nigeria to date, there have been a lot of experiences again when people are apprehended on the cost on suspected terrorists are brought to trial. You know, it's been quite a whole lot of experiences for both the Ministry of Justice, the security agencies, as well as the judiciary that conducts this trial. For instance, the bombers of October 21st, 2010 incidents, Eagle Square, known as Eagle Square, Abuja bombing. You notice that it took 8 years before that trial was concluded. And I think in that process, quite a lot of experience would have been gained by the prosecution, the defense, and so I think the amendment to the Principal Act. Okay. You remember the Principal Act was enacted in 2011. The Act of Terrorism and Other Offences Act 2011. Then it was at the point of conception. We're yet to begin to experience what terror is. You know, so there's a whole lot of, I think the new bill would have to incorporate couples of experiences, field experiences, practical experiences in managing terror, in investigation, in trying some sort of.
You mentioned experiences. Of course, we have to understand that we learn from our experiences, we grow from our experiences. Now, let's look at Nigeria as a country, looking at the different situations we've had, actually in the security sector and of course in terrorism and the rest of them. Do you really think that this particular bill, this reviewing of this bill would make any difference? Because it looks like it's just the usual reviewing and it will just come and nothing would be done, nothing will happen.
Well, I think the bill is just one leg of the anti-terrorism process or fight, if you want to use that term. The bill on its own is a framework that tries to provide some sort of a ground norm on how to try a terror suspect, how to undertake investigation, how to ensure that justice is done in the entire process. Let's take, for instance, in the United States of America, until 9/11, that took place in 2001, the American approach to terror was different. But 9/11 became a defining moment for anti-terror activity in the United States. One of the key things that came from that process was that, one, there was ownership of the process, because every American who had a relative, who had a friend, who had a brother, who had a sister, who had a mother, working in World Trade Center, became emotional about it. So there was an ownership of the terror fights in the United States. And one of the key things the US government did was to set up what they call Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security is, as a result of that experience, they now noticed first there was a lacuna in the security architecture. The security architecture then, you had FBI, you had the CIA, you had the city police and state police. There were not enough. They saw there was a gap. First, they said they had intel about the existence of the the young people or the people who carried out that terror attack. But because there was no coordination, interagency coordination, so Homeland Security now coordinates, provides a coordinating point or platform, if you may, for intel sharing within the security system in the United States. So one of the things that I would want to see in Nigeria is information sharing, more collaborative information sharing within the security, amongst the security agencies. Because that's another way of making it, I think it will strengthen the fight against terror. Because information sharing, first it begins with information, then processing that information, and then the ability to deploy, that information towards prevention, towards ensuring that perpetrators are brought to book, towards ensuring that the judicial system goes through a process of trial that is open and transparent.
Now, one of the things about this bill is that it's the terrorists and the people funding the terrorists. Now, let's look at the angle of the people funding the terrorists. Do you think that the system can be able to track down those people funding the terrorists? And even if they are tracked, do you think anything will be done to those people? Because we've had several cases of, okay, we are aware that, okay, this person is funding, this person is funding, but I've not had any face behind. So even if this bill goes as you've said, information sharing, everything is done properly, and then we've seen people who are funding this terrorism, do you think the system is ready? Let's talk about the system now. Do you think the system can be able to get those people and take out the necessary action on them?
It's also important to perhaps, as part of, in answering this particular question, to look at, in 2003, we had a Money Laundering Act. Terror is an international activity, as it were. It's a cross-border activity. So what you need to do first is the idea of Money Laundering Act was essentially to track flow of funds and resources. Because to carry out a terror activities, you need resources, you need mobilization, and then you need to deploy. So what Money Laundering Act does is essentially look at the entire process of flow of resources. For instance, in some crimes, an individual cannot have a certain amount of cash in his house. You must explain. In the UK, you are not a bank, so why would you be keeping such a money in your house? That means you have a capacity to carry out an act against the state. All right. So, and the Money Laundering Act is such that the financial system, the moment a transaction is done, you can't be able to capture it. And I think that's part of the thing that is done to be able to find out who finances. Because it flows, there must be an inflow. For instance, at the moment, by the current Money Laundering Act, there's a certain amount of money, I think about 5 million, an individual can do in a transaction, 10 million for corporate organizations. In fact, initially, at the original act in 2004, it's actually 500,000, half a million. It was the amendment, subsequent amendment, that raised it up to 2 or 5 million, as it were. So to track sponsors of terror, one of the key things is to get the financial institution. And we have the BVN now. And BVN could, is such an instrument that will be able to what
said the U.S., based on 9/11, had to scale up their security architecture, homeland security, and all that came up. Looking at Nigeria's present fight against terrorism, do you think this focus on just the perpetrators and those financing them is enough?
Well, in the fight against terror, that's what they call winning of minds.
Okay.
For instance, Boko Haram insurgency, it's an ideology-driven, terror group.
Okay.
So you need to get a counter narrative.
So there's something missing in this.
No. You need to come up with a counter narrative. Every religion in the world preaches peace. So why would a religion or a group, a sect, be promoting violence? So they are not religion. It's anti-religion. So one of the things is actually a core part of. Because the populace in a location or an area, a geographical, location,
Yeah.
you must target them with the right information. Because imbibing the terror ideology is actually driven by information. So you must produce a counter narrative to win the heart and mind.
Who would you suggest, or what is the mode of going about this, changing the narrative or bringing it? Which stakeholders would you put this task on to do?
No, I think it has to be a multi-stakeholders activity.
Okay.
How do you do that? You have the community, you have the family,
All right.
you have the traditional institutions, the religious institutions, you have the schools, the educational institution. The educational institutions molds the mind and thoughts of the children. You have the government, that is the state. So you must have state and non-state actors participating. You must have private sector participating in this, because it must be a full ownership-driven process, an all-inclusive process. Because the point is that when there is a terror attack, the entire society suffers. Everybody loses. The government, the individual, the community. So if we are going to find a counter narrative, it must be an all-inclusive process that must include every facet of the society getting involved, owning that message that this is how we want our community to be. And I think it's possible, it's achievable.
One question that is still hanging that you haven't answered yet is the defaulters, the funders of these terrorists, when they are caught, when all the whole financial method has been used, with okay, this person A and B, you are the person funding this, you are the one sponsoring Boko Haram, you are the one sponsoring this, you are the one sponsoring that. What should be done to them? And do you think that the Nigerian system will not toss it under the cupboard? Or like we've had several cases of, okay, a case starts and before you know, you don't hear anything about it, or it gets to the court and you don't hear anything about it. Is it something that Nigeria is going to really be transparent about and say, okay, so person was found for due to all the whole investigation. Okay, you were found for sponsoring Boko Haram. Therefore, this is where you're going to be. This is your punishment. This is the fate right now. Do you think that Nigeria is going to do that? The system is going to do that?
If you look at the existing acts, that the principal act that will be amended, that will be amended by that is being proposed for amendment, and the Money Laundering Act, the punishment or the sanctions for defaulters are clearly out there. There's clear defaulters of people who form. The punishments are there, but what we need to have is to strengthen the judicial process, both from the point of investigation, diligent prosecution, and ensuring that you have hard evidence. Getting convictions are actually a product of hard evidence. It's not a hearsay. It has to be hard evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So what the security agencies, the prosecution system, whether it's a director of public prosecution or any of the security agencies involved in the fight against terror, is to look for hard core evidence.
And do you think those people, those defaulters, do you think they would leave those evidence for you to trace?
No, but that's why you have security system. The security system is to ensure that the defaulter or the alleged suspect doesn't go scot-free. They're looking for the minutest evidence to present in court and then ensuring diligent prosecution.
All right, let's look at recently we had the federal government saying coming out with amnesty for the Boko Haram site. Do you think this in any way conflicts with this new prohibition, terrorism prohibition and prevention bill?
Well, I think the president made a
Or
mention.
you think he did it just for the sake of 2019 that's so close?
Made mention of the amnesty, a proposed amnesty
for the
for
Boko Haram
repentance.
Repentance.
Yeah, there's a conditional word. It's conditional. In logic, you talk about a conditional statement, if and only if.
Okay.
Do you understand? Incidentally, I studied logic. So it's a conditional statement for repentant Boko Haram terrorists.
Okay.
So if you have a repentant book, it means he has renounced terror.
Are there ways we can actually justify, for instance, ways we can justify
That someone has repented.
So what it means in essence, it's all over the world. Most of the times in northern, the Irish Republican Army, IRA, Sinn Féin, for over 50 years, no, over 100 years, they fought the British government. Then there's what they call Good Friday Accord.
Yes, the Good Friday Accord.
In 1998. Good Friday Accord was what brought the entire thing to an end. And today, you have members of IRA and Sinn Féin sitting in the British Parliament. And the Northern Ireland has had some level of political independence. They have their own parliament. In Colombia, the FARC rebel group, for 50 years, terrorized the entire country. But just about a year or so ago, you saw the process of reconciliation and amnesty that was granted. As we speak today, on the other day, I saw on one of the international channels where a former FARC leader is now in the community campaigning to be elected a parliamentarian. So what I think should happen is we even had under former President Umar Yar'Adua, we saw it happen in Niger Delta. Amnesty process, it's a complex process, but if managed properly, produces a sustainable peace in a community, for a state, and for a country. So we're yet to see the full modality for the proposed amnesty for the repentant Boko Haram terrorists. But I think it's something that would first be beneficial for the country. I would like to support such a process. Because the point is that if you look at the investment we make to contain terror, to manage terror activities, the security budget, we can perhaps halve it because we now have sustainable peace. We now move it on to developmental processes and projects. The entire Northeast has been set back several years. It's a big setback. So you can use that money to now manage the process of rebuilding the Northeast region. Because it's the only sustainable peace that will make the rebuilding of the region sustainable. So I would support such a process that would provide a sustainable amnesty program that will be able to, because the point is that, to begin with, these are your citizens.
Okay.
So even if they are rebelling or insurgent, you must find a way of winning them. It's part of that process of winning hearts and mind. All we need to do is to put in a transparent process, a process that would be sustainable, but I think it's doable. If we have done it in Niger Delta, we can also do it.
You mention of the fact that the Boko Haram is not truly a religious group because of its ideology. So you need a counter narrative to fight it. I still want to confirm from you, which set of people among the stakeholders do you think could help us change the mindset of people, of this Boko Haram group? isn't it still the religious leaders that are going to be in the forefront? Or you think we need probably psychological experts or someone instead of religious leaders leading the front?
You remember I said it has to be an all-inclusive process.
Okay.
If you say an all-inclusive process, what it means is first, you need to get a psychology of the insurgents.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm asking. Who will be the best bet?
You need to decode the ideology,
Okay.
what inspires them, what is the metaphysics of the ideology, what is the sociological implication
Okay.
of the ideology, what inspires that ideology. Do they have political? So you find that virtually you bring in experts in conflict management, even in peace building and post-conflict era environmental building. You must get everybody on board. When I say it's all inclusive, when you now design this model or whatever messaging, the families would begin to, first of all, every child would listen to their parents.
Okay.
The insurgents, they have parents. I'm sure if their mother puts a call through them and say, my son, what are you doing? That son will want to listen to the mother. Knowing that, this is the woman who mothered me for this number of years. So mothers have a role to play. That is the family.
Okay.
Then the religious leaders need to also have a role to play. But the first point should be designing that messaging, that counter narrative, because it must be agreed. It must be an all-inclusive message. It must be a message that there's a consensus on. First of all, is to identify that Boko Haram is not religion. It's not religiously inspired.
Okay.
That's the first one. Then the next thing, what does religion teach? Every religion, like I have said, incidentally, I've studied virtually every religion on earth. I did philosophy. So I read what they would call comparative religion. And in comparative religion, every religion is built on the concept of peace, on the concept of a paradise, and the concept of life everlasting. So in that case, you cannot kill and say this is religious. It must be inspired by some other thing that is irreligious. So the moment we agree on the appropriate messaging, then we can now look for each levels of vehicles or platforms to push out this message, from the family to the religious institutions to the schools system to workplace, and we can build on that. And each level would have an impact on the individual. The target is the individual. I remember a certain thinker, Plato. He says that the society is the individual writ large.
Okay.
The individual behavior represents an entire society. So what it simply means is that if we can get the individual imbibe this message of peace, this message of love, this message of brotherhood, then we will be able to move to the next level. That individual would display that particular attitude. So when I say counter narrative, we must agree on what is the message.
All right.
And then we can now look at the platforms for dissemination of that message.
Okay, just to wrap our discourse for the news, I'd just like to ask you, what are your thoughts? Are you convinced that we're going to get it right?
Yeah, I should. All we need to do is to work hard at it. Get focused, get our indicators right, look at what is it that our deliverables, what do we intend to, we need first to identify the issues, identify the underlying factors, then identify processes towards achieving results, and looking at what deliverables do we intend to see at the end of the day. I think if we are focused and work hard at it, we can achieve results.
All right, more questions. I think that's how we'll be calling a wrap on the discourse. We've been talking about reviewing the recent announced Prohibition and Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Bill, which the Attorney General of the Federation, talking about Abubakar Malami, announced to Nigerians. And we've got our policy analyst right here, Ozemena, trying to tear it down how best is going to benefit the Nigerian people. We'll be going for a quick break so we can have the news, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping up Daybreak Nigeria.
Police recovers 15 guns in EFCC arraigns former Katsina State Governor over fraud. These and more stories in a moment. I am Nten Ekbang with the AM News. Of criminal breach of trust and forgery. Adamawa State has guns and 123 cartridges According to the State Police Command, 15 people voluntarily surrendered their guns in compliance with the recent directive by the Inspector General of Police on illegal firearms. In before amount was above the 10 million naira President Buhari requires Senate confirmation of
your women empowerment, road infrastructure, pipe-borne water, security, education, and agricultural development, we are sure of a better Nigeria. 2019 is not about power or change, but rather it is about Dan Kwambo. Replicate his humility and servant leadership. Dan Kwambo, Nigeria. Nigeria, Dan Kwambo.
For almost a decade, the Nigerian army have given their all to ensure that our dear country is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. Some have in the process paid the ultimate price, while many will forever live with indelible scars occasioned by their determination to protect the country, no matter the hurdle. Despite these, they have remained resolute and undaunted, and today, all territories the insurgents once took control of have been recaptured and normalcy restored. And now, for the first time in a long time, the end of Boko Haram is foreseeable. Therefore, the wisest thing for the remaining insurgents to do is to surrender today or face total destruction from the army. Remember, the Nigerian army will stop at nothing to ensure that total peace is restored in all parts of the country. So, be wise and embrace peace today or get ready to be ruthlessly dealt with. This message is brought to you by the Coalition on Conflict Resolution and Human Rights in Nigeria. Welcome to Living Treasures Academy. Enjoy a conducive and serene learning environment. Qualified and experienced teachers. Equipped computer laboratory and library. Secured atmosphere. Extracurricular activities. An all-embracing curriculum for total development of the child. comprehensive education for leadership. Join us today from crèche to secondary levels. Living Treasures Academy, committed to excellence. Thanks for staying tuned. President Muhammadu Buhari has requested Senate's confirmation of Barrister Festus Okoye as National Commissioner representing Southeast Geopolitical Zone for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The President, in a letter sent on Tuesday to the Senate, said the request is in accordance with Section 154, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In another letter, the President also is seeking the confirmation of 23 nominees from different states as commissioners of the National Population Commission. President Buhari is further seeking confirmation of 2 nominees as non-legal practitioner members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. They are Senator Abba Ali from Katsina and Mohammed Sage from Niger State. It was a gathering of distinguished Nigerians from all walks of life as they convened at the multi-purpose Musa Yaradua Center in Abuja to commemorate the memory of a friend. The event, an autobiography of a former minister and diplomat, late Ambassador Matthew Towell, attracted family and friends to the launch of the book titled Dignity in Service. TVN's Cynthia Agbo was there and our reports.
It was a thing of joy as dignitaries from all walks of life converged in Abuja for the presentation and book launch of an autobiography of Dr. Matthew Towell Mbu, popularly called MT Mbu, with the title Dignity in Service. The book, which takes the reader down memory lane, remembering the life and time of a great and extraordinary person who served his country well and was indeed an asset to people in and around the world. The book launch, which had the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, as the chairman of the occasion, was an avenue for everyone to appreciate the achievements of Dr. Mbu. The chairman, in his opening speech, poured out his great admiration for the late MT Mbu.
At 52, I doubt if I have enough knowledge to speak about MT Mbu at 52. But I know that we are gathered here to honor him. I know that honoring him would be to be able to write what his contributions to the history of Nigeria is. Because if you don't do that, I'm taught in literature, as a letter of literature, that if you don't blow your pipe, let me speak the pidgin and Japanese English, if you don't sing your song or write your history, somebody will write it on your behalf.
Chief Job Beckett, who is the publisher of the book, in his words, described the book as one that contains lots of history, something that has been neglected over time.
MT's book, Dignity of Service, contains history, something we have badly neglected over the many years in this country, which have just been found back on the school syllabus. History is crucial, and we must give it focus, for it is part of who we are.
Amongst those present was Senator Rose Okoye, who represented the President of the Senate, former Governor of Cross River State, Liel Imoke, Senator Musa Adede, Ambassador Ignatius Olesemeka, and many others.
Ahead of the 2019 general elections, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai, has warned Army personnel to stay off politics. The Army boss gave the warning at the opening ceremony of the Chief of Army First Quarter Conference in Abuja. The conference, which brought together top Army officers, is aimed at appraising Army operations across the country. Lieutenant General Tuku Buratai revealed that a special court-martial will be set up for officers who get involved in the 2019 general elections. He called on personnel who are interested in politics to resign and pursue their dreams. And in another development, the Chief of Army Staff has disclosed plans to partner with prestigious foreign schools as part of efforts to develop the capacity of men and women of the force. Among the list of schools stated is the Harvard Kennedy School, Boston, in USA. The Chief of Army Staff revealed at the Chief of Army Staff First Quarter Conference 2018 in Abuja. This move, the Army boss stated, will help to drive its vision of professionally discharging its function. Former Nigerian international Emmanuel Amuneke has told head coach of the national team, Gernot Rohr, to look for a backup striker to Odion Ighalo ahead of the 2018 FIFA World Cup. Ighalo failed to score in the Super Eagles' last two matches during the international break against Poland and Serbia. The Changchun Yatai striker has scored 4 goals in 14 appearances. Nigeria will face Iceland, Croatia and Argentina in Group D of the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. And in sports, Arsenal striker Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has hailed former Borussia Dortmund boss Thomas Tuchel. The 44-year-old, who worked with Aubameyang for 2 seasons, has been out of work since he was sacked by the Bundesliga club last summer. Although Tuchel has been tentatively linked with succeeding Arsene Wenger at the Emirates Stadium, he has been widely associated with a move to Paris Saint-Germain in the summer. Aubameyang believes it will be a successful marriage. Aubameyang felt that he had a strong rapport with the German due to his mentality. And on the foreign scene, Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg is facing the test of his life in rescuing his company from a deepening crisis over its failure to protect privacy and toward manipulation. The 33-year-old computer genius, who has been a Silicon Valley star for a decade, is on a hot seat in Washington and around the world, trying to fix pervasive problems in the world's biggest social network. As founder and chief executive of Facebook, with about 2 billion users, Zuckerberg controls the online giant, which has power over an online conversation that affects the news media, elections, and much more. He began writing computer programs at the age of 11 and at the prestigious Phillips Exeter Academy was captain of the fencing team before entering the elite Harvard University. Zuckerberg launched Facebook.com as it was then known from his dorm room on February 4, 2004 with some of his roommates and classmates. And that's AM News on Television Nigeria, and the news a recap of the major stories. EFCC arraigns former Katsina State Governor over fraud. Police recovers 11 guns in Adamawa State. EFCC arraigns son of former Plateau State Governor over 5 billion naira fraud. And in sports, ex-Arsenal striker hails former Borussia Dortmund coach to take over from Wenger. Remember, he who fights and runs away lives to fight. Another day, I am Ntem Ekban. To have a brilliant Wednesday.
All right, welcome back from the news. Now you know the big news and all that's happening right here in Nigeria. It's time for us to wrap up Africa's finest breakfast show called Daybreak Nigeria right here on Television Nigeria. And my name is Anthony Momodu. And a special thanks to the entire production team, from Josh to Noah and everybody else, Phillips, everybody else that made the production awesome. We're saying thank you very much and wishing you a lovely, lovely day ahead.
And from me to you, I would say that in everything you do, do not forget that life is very sweet. So don't waste it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Television Nigeria. Like us on Facebook, Television Nigeria. Follow us on Twitter and, of course, Instagram at TV Nigeria. Be good to yourself and bye from me.